I'm Josh Mann with The Lion, and I'm delighted to have a chance to talk with Jennifer Tafuto, a teacher from Connecticut, who this summer decided to resign because she was feeling pressure to teach things that she had major concerns about. So, Jennifer, thank you so much for giving us a little bit of your time. And I thought I'd begin by asking you what led you to teach in the first place? What do you love about teaching? What kind of teaching did you do?
Well, thanks for having me. First of all, I'm excited to be here. What led me into teaching? I was a fourth generation teacher. My mother, my grandparents, their parents. So I always knew from a young age I wanted to be a teacher. It's something that I've always been passionate about. I've been a teacher for 6 years here in Connecticut. I started as a teacher in Bridgeport at a charter school teaching fifth grade math and science. And for the last 3 years, I've been teaching second grade in Manchester. And I've loved, both are very diverse communities. I've loved teaching in both of those settings. I have nothing but positive things to say about both, schools and the students and the families, especially. Um, and what I most enjoyed was the relationships I think fostered with my students and their families. I consider myself a lifelong learner. So being able to share my love of learning with my students has always been a driving force behind why I wanted to go into teaching. And just those aha moments where kids are excited about learning and where they finally get something if they've been struggling. It's moments like those that I truly have loved and something that I will miss since leaving the classroom.
So this summer, you resigned your position due to concerns about being encouraged or required to teach racially charged content. And I wondered if you could just talk to us a little bit about what you went through and maybe some examples of things that you had concerns about.
Sure. So, they never said these are lessons on critical race theory. Equity was the term that was used. And for the students, we were given a um, a list of scripted questions that followed along with read alouds. So read alouds that were specifically chosen where the characters, represented different races, and the prompts and the conversations were really targeted on those character races. And students were being asked questions. I'm happy to read some examples. What are other things that have been created that often leave Black people out even today? How can we change this? Another one, and these are taken directly from the curriculum. I do not think white people are better or more deserving than Black people, which makes it very upsetting to me that they got better treatment. I wonder if segregation happens today. I wondered if, as a teacher, do I always make sure the Black boys in my classroom know they matter? So those are just a few examples. Sorry, I'm getting emotional about that last one. That definitely was one that was really tough.
Mm. Yeah, well, thanks for sharing about some of those things. So this was training, kind of under the term equity, and you were given specific exercises to do, question prompts, answers to give. And what were some of the things that you felt could be harmful for the kids that you were teaching?
Well, I think that the topic of race is important. I think that, in a general sense, equity is an important concept. I'm not taking away any importance from that. But I think that some of these questions and conversations, first of all, my students were 7 and 8 years old. So being expected to talk about things that they might not normally talk about, I think is inappropriate. And I also felt that there was such a focus on skin color rather than kindness and acceptance. And, it goes back to what Martin Luther King said about judging a person by the color of their skin, and where we should be judging them by the content of their character. So I think that, this work did have potential to be very harmful. And, I had a student who the parent reached out in concern because she was in a public setting labeling people by the color of their skin. And that was extremely uncomfortable. for the parent to go through. And she just was in complete disagreement with this work that was causing her daughter to do that.
So at what point, as you were thinking about some of these things you were being required and pressured to teach, did you think, I might have to resign? This might be my best option.
Yeah, it was definitely uncomfortable. I think in the beginning of the school year, I was just adjusting to life, with teaching remotely through COVID. I think I was going with the flow and doing what I was told. I've always been, very respectful of my superiors and making sure that I follow the curriculum with fidelity. So it got to a point where I would be lesson planning and reading ahead. What do I have to teach for tomorrow's lessons? And questions like the one that I just gave, especially the one that, upset me, it was really, I felt like attacking my integrity as a person and, making me feel like, um, you know, I guess questioning my morals of what I'm doing. And so I don't know if there was one specific thing that set me off and made me decide to resign, but I knew that the work was definitely progressing in its intensity. And I can only anticipate that it will continue to do so. And I don't feel comfortable with it. And so I don't want to be part of something that I'm not comfortable with.
So I know other teachers around the country have been expressing concern, and we've seen some news coverage about this. Presumably, there are other teachers who have concerns, though, who maybe haven't known what they should do. They maybe so far have stayed silent. What would you say to those who might be afraid to speak or act on their concerns?
Well, their concerns are definitely valid. I've gotten numerous messages of support from teachers in the district I just left, in other districts across the state, in other states, saying, thank you for saying something that we feel. We wish we could say something, but we're scared. We're scared of being labeled, of losing our jobs. So I think, if you're that uncomfortable, then you need to speak up and say something. You need to, reach out to the Board of Ed. You need to sign this pledge that I have mentioned a few times, 1776 Action Pledge for educators, and just to not be afraid, because if that's truly what you believe in or don't believe in this case, then it's not really fair to push it on your students if you don't believe in it.
Hmm. And similarly, parents around the country are concerned and reading a lot about curriculum changes, and there's been a lot of intense school board meetings over these kinds of issues. So what would you say to parents who have these concerns?
Same thing. I think that their concerns are valid. They deserve to know what is being taught. They deserve to go to bed at night knowing that their children have been in hands all day of educators who want what's best for them, who are welcoming them and valuing who they are as a person. And if they're not comfortable, then they most certainly are in every right and absolutely should speak up, because those are their children.
So finally, we touched on it earlier that issues of race and equity are important. We want to teach our children kindness. We're both parents. We obviously want to raise children who love and respect other people, regardless of ethnicity. So what would you say just about that general idea of helping young people grow up, having empathy for others and not being prejudiced?
Well, I think, you said it best, having empathy for others, learning that a person is not defined only by the color of their skin. Talking about race is important, but it doesn't need to be done in a divisive way. It can be done from a lens of kindness and acceptance, and respect, most importantly. And, in terms of equity, it's such an interesting concept. And as a teacher, I had always seen equity in the form of academic success. So giving my students what they need to enter my classroom each day and help them prepare for what lies ahead with their education, giving them the tools they need to be successful and to learn, rather than, this focus on division.
Hmm. Well, Jennifer, thanks so much for your willingness to share your story. And we're encouraged by your courage and your bravery. And I know a lot of teachers around the country, and I'm sure parents too, are taking cues that, okay, if I have concerns, I can be courageous. I can speak up. It's okay to let my feelings be known and express my concerns.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.